Hello guys, welcome to a new video. This time I'm meaning you originally requested, I bring you the complete Iceberg of Kaiserreich, which originally I wanted to be one single video, but due to issue to my editor, I had to split it into two parts. Now you will see the full version of his Iceberg created by the user Ditlevsen from Kaiserreich. Without further ado, let's begin. Kaiser Casanima. Kaiser Casanima is a YouTube channel made of a collection of artists centered in making videos about the lore of Kaiserreich. Its most popular videos about Kaiserreich are the series video called The Debate Stage, which tells the story behind the different context of the Second American Civil War, and War of Kaiserreich, which brings the lore of many nations in the month. Kaiserreich Discord, the official Discord of the month and where most of the mod team dwells. That is where the set of cultural data are posted first. Other main discs where the community can share their opinion about the mod are r/Kaiserreich, which is the official subreddit of the mod. There is where you can either post questions, banners, memes, discussion, and more related to the mod if you don't break the rules of the subreddit. And the Tour of Kaiserreich, which was created in 2011 and there is no important here apart the meaning of each early post is in a younger days of the mod and the community. Kaiserreich. Kaiserreich is an expansion mod which includes mod paths to the game such as min paths and content from the original mod to be considered as unrealistic and basically offer a more wacky version of Kaiserreich. We may say that it's superior to the original mod. Kaiserreich Wiki. There are at least two wikis of Kaiserreich, the official of Pearce and the fan-made version of fandom. However, both wikis complete repository of habit, lore, and information about nations, events, certain and works in the Kaiserreich universe in encyclopedia display. As a fun fact, Kaiserreich has an official entry Wikipedia, which is more about gameplay, sending, promotion research. Alternate History Hub video. For those who don't know, Alternate History Hub is a YouTuber with more than 2 million subscribers and is the most popular YouTuber regarding alternative history. On June 12, 2020, he released a video called The War of Kaiserreich, exploring the lore of an alternate World War I, which explains the lore of Kaiserreich and its nation. The video is one of the most viewed on his channel and there are a little more comments to the mod. But the video came on as of public level, it was quite controversial and caused quite a bit of drama in the community, which caused the alternative history host to talk about Kaiserreich. TV page. TV is a website which collects and documents the creation and example of text in different pieces of media. In the case of Kaiserreich, its page has been around since the 2004 and the other entry in TV describe all the text within the mod. The TV entry of Kaiserreich has evolved as the mod has. You use it week by machine, you can see how the entry of Kaiserreich has changed through the years. AARs. An after-action report, or AAR, is a group of images of playthrough of players after they finishes their games. There are hundreds and even thousands of AARs that can be found either in the Paradox forum or in the subreddit. Wikiboxes. Wikiboxes are fan-made articles about the Kaiserreich universe done in a presentation style of Wikipedia and have been around in the subreddit since 2018. Carter Club. Carter Club is a Cold War mod of Kaiserreich released recently and is the first Kaiserreich continuation mod to be released. Carter Club is set in 1948 at the end of the Second World War, when the beginning of a Cold War between the Reich and that which is now renamed as the Accord were on each other in proxy wars, when a divide the America and China made the response for their global dominance. However, the mod has faced many criticisms, some saying that nothing ever happens in Carter Club. Many of the circumstances are based on the lack of conflict, the unavoidable collapse of Middle Africa, racial liberalism, and the fact that the Cold War when in the mode is very unbalanced towards Germany, giving high chances to win a war with the accord. The YouTuber called Lorda has made a video showing the possible idea to fix the problem of Cartecrack, like making the more from ideological struggle go into a multi-central politics with nukes and other suggestions like making the collapse of Middle Africa violent and making the German Empire a villain. Personally, I hope that the developer category can fix the problem in the my future updates. Hungary's focus tree. A popular meme in the community highlighting Hungary like a country, with many of the semi joking that we are more likely to get GTA 6 first than Hungary will to get content. Pro-national populism. National populism is ideology which rejects liberals and socialists in favor of a traditionalistic, militaristic, and one-party authoritarian state. Originally, the ideology was represented as brown, but in recent updates have been changed by green. This is because the brown color for fascists in vanilla was due to the brown share of the Third Reich, but due to the fascism as we know that now existing Kaiserreich was changed by green to represent the national populace which is more associated with Savvun and the green Russian army uniforms. Herbert Hoover. Before the US facelift, the longtime starting president of the United States was Herbert Hoover as a Republican. He sustained the mode as a Democrat for the 1940 election. Kerensky assassination. Until recent updates, Kerensky was assassinated ever again. Instead of the 0.17 in late 2023, Kerensky is no longer assassinated, and instead he is in exile in New York, and Victor Chernow takes his place as the one to be assassinated in ever again. Overbearing. Second American Civil War name changes. In the recent American facelift, many name of a very faction in the Second American Civil War has changed. The syndicalists went from the Combined Syndicates of America to the Worker Congress of America. The Longists went from the American United States to the American People's Government, and the Pacific State of America has changed into the American Constitutional Coalition Government. Red Flood. Red Flood is another popular mode of Hearts of Iron 4 and is known for its wackiness. Set in an alternate 1936, Red Flood is set in a world where no one won the Red War. France lost to Germany and turns into an isolationist state on the Anthony Artaud. But Germany lost to Russia, causing a communist revolution in Germany, leaving the remaining conservatives fleeing to Prussia. Austria-Hungary collapsed, leaving only the outer portion and the Hungarian Revolution being successful. The White Army won the Russian Civil War, would become a decentralized dictatorship divided with governed the Arab de facto warlord, with the exiled Republic fleeing in to Russia, which is decomposed by much of Manchuria because in his timeline, Russia won the Russo-Japanese War. Now you're wondering why I am talking about Red Flood in a Iceberg of Kaiserreich? Well, it's because for everything that I told you about Red Flood is just an alternative history novel within the universe of Kaiserreich. Andesia. Andesia is a form of country for Cotares and Argentina if the Patagonian worker from won the Patagonian rebellion to Argentina. Andesia is a superstate that composed the Spanish South America and is rather reminiscent of the old Kaiserreich. Dual struggle. Dual struggle is a planned Cold War mode of Kaiserreich set in the 60s in a three-way Cold War between an autocrat like Germany, a syndicalist, this America, and a democratic shogunate of Japan. See the development of the mod. It looks like it is an ambitious map where it is high chances of being released in the near future. Anime Wars. Every year, the subreddit gets flooded by an influx of anime posts, meaning the subreddit divides between those who support the anime post and those who hate it. Transamur. Transamur was a Japanese puppet state that encompassed the territory to the east of the Amur River, and its leader was the Admiral Kolchak. The murmur has existed in cases since its inception, but until recently it has been part of Russia at the start of the game when a potential Jafar is the army reportedly up in the area. Alter Russians. As I mentioned earlier in his video, Kaiserreich started as a Markers of Iron during the name of Alter Russians. Everything important that defined Kaiserreich like the assassination of Kerensky, Transamur, and Stamper began counter since its release in September 10, 2005. It's been 20 years. India update since its release, the Prairie report 109 in the update has cast a long shadow ever since it was first unveiled 5 years ago. The misreception fundamentally altered how the Prairie report are presented to the public. Now, by weeks from the release, as opposed to, well, just like at his image, Krasnod. Krasnod was a planned Cold War mode that pitted a victory international in the west against a reactionary Russia in the east. Well, at the beginning, it looked promising. At the end, was cancelled due to by the events about to the peace integralist but turned very political, causing the slowing and less disease of the development of the mode. Next up, Pacific States. Until the United States facelift, Richard Nixon said to be a potential presidential candidate for the 1952 election of the Pacific States of America if they won the Civil War. Fear Rage. Legacy of Kaiserreich is another popular mod which, like Rockwell, is based on an alternative history novel in Kaiserreich. In a novel, the link was if the tale was where Germany lost the world trade. Some of the difference between Pearce and Utala Alta in 1932, Germany became the tertiary of the Baltics. In Eastern Europe and independent from the Soviet Union. At the start of the game, the theater of Iceberg was accomplished and many of the changes that differed from alternate. Sebastian Faure was an anarchist and for a long time the leader of the Commune of France. Although he was decided to be removed in the Third International War due to concerning information about what he did in real life, inappropriate behavior towards minors, the positive when something less disgusting, expedited his departure. Monarchy is quite routine. Belarus, before being a republic in current versions, used to be a monarchy under the Hohenzollern. In the modern setup, there is a tricky event referred to the Prairie setup. Frankie D. Roosevelt. In case the reason why Frankie D. Roosevelt is absent in the mod is due that in 1921 he died by polio and the only relative of him in the mod is Quentin Roosevelt, son of Teddy Roosevelt. Non-Tumbria. In the version 1.1 and is alone, Non-Tumbria was added to the mod as a releasable nation of the intro, which was added to combat shenanigans in the peace conference and to completely dismantle Britain if you play as Germany, but is considered by many players as a bizarre gift. You are in Middle Africa. Before the Prairie Report 141, the star character of Middle Africa was German Gary, and even the earlier version of the mod had Joachim Ribbentrop as his foreign minister. After the same said Prairie Report, the related text expressed the government of Middle Africa because the developers wanted a better frame of the historical German colonial administration practice and to avoid the problematic portrayal of Göring as a caricature of the Nazi ideology. Apocalypse. You have played Kaiserreich for a long time. You probably have noticed that posting including has become increasingly in the mod. This phenomenon has given the name of Apocalypse, and the ruthless culling of his kind of portrait continue to horrify the community. Hashtag justice for the hat portraits. Don Cuban Union. The Don Cuban Union is a nation of coastal south of Sarts, as led by Pietro Krasnod, which in real life was a Nazi collaborator. It has since been replaced by the Revolta of the Federation Army under Basil Boldi-Rev. Franco Spain. There is a very obscure route for Spain which, in a specific chain event that requires assassinating Infante Juan during the Civil War, which is done by a decision with RNG, and then proclaims James as the King of Spain, and as a result, Spain will have court on the entirety of France. Avoid the Second American Civil War. There was two separate routes for the Federals to avoid the Second American Civil War, either on the Fred Olson or Charles Curtis, but could negotiate with Jack Reed and then assassinate Huey Long. As the Second American Civil War was deemed as a necessity for most of continental America to function, his icon was removed. Pele American Union State. Before Huey Long was shifted to the National Popular Club for the longest, William Pele, leader of the Civil Legion, occupied the role of a National Populist American Union State. Its past was considered as real as it was itself for supporting a Christian identity that envisioned a union of German Assyrians, Afro-American, Socialists, Jewish, and Catholic people.
Excuse me, what?
All China. Prior to the 0.10 version, China was said to be very different. While Qin and Fengtian weren't tan different from today, the Shandong occultists were in Shanxi. Furthermore, both Yunnan and Manchuria were larger than they are now, and the biggest chain was in the south, where it was ruled by American corporation known as the AOG. I did not even try to pronounce its real name. And if we go back any further, Japan even had part of mainland China outright. Tsar Pavel, in his point of the Iceberg, referred that Dmitry Romanov was once able to proclaim the Russian throne for himself. When he died, his young son Pavel would become the next Tsar of Russia. Tawanti Suyo. It is possible to form the Incan Empire here as Peru in the left game if you do a specific chain of events. First, Peru must go to the National Populist route, and once the leader dies in 1947, one of the four successors, especially the white supremacy, must be chosen. This triggers a Czech revolt led by a descendant of an Incan emperor. AlternativeHistory.com thread. In 2017, a user with the name of Reverdelta posted the author of Kaiserreich in AlternativeHistory.com. Nowadays, the thread has more than 10,000 comments in its 8 years of existence, which is incredibly formidable to say the least. Panama Canal and Singapore. Several years ago, a user with the name of Remington Chowdhury in Ingur cataloged the possible course, claims, and state BP name changes available but of a very bad attack in the game. As it turned out, every single tag had the option to claim the Panama Canal as Singapore, and his potential acquisition was in a very cost, something that becomes a meme in the community. Charles Curtis, before William Bora of London and John also could avoid the Second American Civil War, Charles Curtis was the first path to could avoid the Second American Civil War. A third is required navigating one hell of event chain to do so. La Plata. Back when the countries were limited, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay were all joined as one nation known as La Plata. Genghis Khan II, Urban born Urgensteiner as an aftermath baron, was one about to proclaim himself as the reincarnation of Genghis Khan and the head of a new Mongol empire, which made the Mongolian on land as far west as the Urals and far east as the Yarrow River. His back was removed on account of Stanford not harboring these ideas in real life. Lawrence of Germania. T.E. Lawrence used to have a former prominent role merely as spy. The Union of Britain, he offered his service to the government once the war with Germany begins. He then sneaked into Germany itself, initiating a significant campaign of sabotage. The Germans would give a chance when Lawrence either dying or narrowly escaping back to Britain. Here, he could either rise to the leadership of the Union of Britain itself or promptly launch a massive royalist uprising. All Italy. Under the Alpha 006 Garibaldi number, the situation on the Italian peninsula was very wild to how different it was. For starters, the North, Corsica, Nice, and Savoy were united in a federation under the Pope, while the so was a socially stronghold. Opposite to the situation of Italy since the previously mentioned Calvary Neighbor, which the north is socialist, Venice is under Austrian rule, the south is a monarchy, the house of Savoy is in exile in Sardinia, and the Pope only controls France and its surroundings. Orchestra at War, a all-world blues crossover. On April 3rd of 2020, there was a massive crossover between Kaiserreich, Our Blues, and Orchestra at War, where each of the three mods have roots related to the crossover mods. Honestly, I think it's the best to watch his video from the Shanky to see his crossover in full glory. Luxembourg. The remote tar of Luxembourg used to be a releasable in the event of Germany's defeat. One could even create Greater Luxembourg. Its erosion was justified as said earlier, being assimilated into Germany. Emperor Otto. Before Blizzard Karl was the starting ruler of Austria, it was his son Otto. Karl died when he did historically, with Otto ruling since the age of 10. Otto is still in the mod, though he don't ascend to the throne until the late 40s. Hans von Herrenvolk. His point of the Iceberg refers to an updated piece of lore in which in the Kaiserreich timeline, Himmler is a chicken farmer in the United Baltic Duchy. His master race of chickens were apparently so delectable that even the royal family prized him. His tip began an attraction, though the new lord has Himmler dying in a ditch in the United Baltic Duchy. Danubia Volunteers. There was a freaking book back when the whole full version first came out, where Austria-Hungary would send volunteers to an obscene amount of factions. Edgy was guilty of his as well, and it was too uncommon not to see camel cavalry search New York just to give an example. Blue Canada. Since many years, Canada's flag used to be like the historical flag of the Dominion Canada, but with blue instead of red. He was changed to red to be more historically accurate. Though most are not resigned to his change, when it was came out, it caused quite a stir in the community that even to his day, many fans are still salty to his change. Otherwise, it seemed absolutely ludicrous, but yes, a Kaiserreich dating simulator exists. Otherwise, they explain an international school in Switzerland with many charters from different countries of the mod. A demo of the game has been output. There have been no further updates in just though, so it probably will be cancelled as many projects related to Kaiserreich. 1984 Union of Britain. Eric Bray, better known as George Orwell, can lead the Union of Britain, does so by doing a coup to Mosley, and there's even an event about his rather specific book, Unserkampf. Before the mention to Adolf being completely erased in the mod, there was at least two events that mentioned him. His war journal, the complaint on the novel Unserkampf became a big hit in Germany, so much that even Len Reisenhardt had made a movie about it with the same name. Trial Legation Series. If the foreign dominance of the Legation City faltered, instead of collapsing, the Legation City could come under the control of a criminal syndicate. There were three possible rulers. The root the most notable was Jiang Qin, the wife of Mao Zedong in our timeline. Julius IV, colloquially known as the Barbeau, the Cardinal Theodore Pinitzer, used to be the national populist option for the papacy. She had led him launching a crusade against syndicalism. International China. At the legation series, you can unite the entirety of China and you can get the net change after doing it. I don't recommend doing it unless you are a madman and there won't be any further contact to do it other than the message you have been brought to all of China. Balkan is the United States. The United States once had a five-state rule in which MacArthur could be assassinated. He was, and neither the federal government nor Eisenhower took charge, that the country would descend into chaos. The result was a balkanized America, with each nation having the option to choose a major fraction of their choosing. Dictatorial Pacific States. The Pacific States once had an option to be led by a military government as opposed to the civilian one. Henry Arnold could become dictator and there would be no way to revert his. Interestingly enough, a democratic Pacific state could be still his fruit, as in every election there was a small chance for the military to cut the government. Darkest Hour version. Before Hoi 4, the primary remote was accurate to Darkest Hour, an offshoot of Hearts of Iron 2. A lot of the old school Kaiserreich was however here and successfully made the jump to the initial Hoi 4 version. Since 2020, with most of the mounting on the Hearts of Iron 4 version, the Darkest Hour version has been open sourced, with some notably different content from the Prairie, Darkest Hour and Hearts of Iron 4 versions. Again start the Iranian Civil War, attacks on revolt, and other the oddity can be found in his latest version. Brazilian Civil War. A rare instance of Kaiserreich removing a civil war. Brazil was said to always have one no matter what route they went down. He was seen as not really adding anything and was replaced by the much more dynamic state revolts. West Union capitulation. Back in the day, whenever the autonomy were elected the Union of Britain, they self-balkanized before the Second World War and not after. He will result in the exceptionally weak West Union instead capitulated whenever the enemy forced took its capital, which could happen repeatedly. Russo-Japanese alliance. Many years ago, Russia and Japan could form a Russian alliance instead of warring on each other. This possible alliance was removed because the historical interests of Russia and Japan in the region conflicted heavily. As you can imagine, the alliance was a formidable duo. The Red Twilight. In the New Order, there is a reference to Kaiserreich in an event called the Red Twilight, in which Bray aka George Orwell writes a novel where describes the events of the Lord of Kaiserreich. America's silly refugees. If the United States failed either get the longest of the syndicalists and the silly crew went down to that particular focus, just Stewart and Frank Merrick could fascinatingly flee to China. There, J. Falcon with the crew becoming general under the J. Marshall, Egyptian Axis. There's not much to say here about the original, the Carapaz was to be known as the Axis. Outer Legion is the American Union State, a book that still exists in which if Austria its military occupation route becomes a republic and then applies for German annexation, there's a great window where it sent volunteers to the longest in the Second American Civil War. Once the Austria is say volunteer arrive to their destination, they'll never leave. The downfall of Numenor. He entered Delta in the Universal Kaiserreich, who said to have its own Lord of the Rings. The downfall of Numenor noted the story of the destruction of the mythical kingdom island of Numenor, whose inhabitants set out to liberate the continent of Middle-earth from the reign of the Dark Lord Sauron, but in the end fell victim to its own weakness and corruption, and the gods and the pro-Iceland beneath the uncaring waves of the sea. Only a small band of men still loyal to the gods were able to choose the category of the Seeking Nation to find new land in distant lands. With that said, one can see the parallel with the British Revolution from Kaiserreich in his book, a fact that Tolkien himself denied, just as he did not allow the ring was analog to work with one in a timeline. German Crete. Crete was said to be a German colony at the time of the game. Profitable with the most strategically valuable mountain in German hands at the time, say Allied could be sold to either the Greeks or the Ottomans. Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy, America's most decorated soldier in World War II, was a strategy general for the American Union State. He has a late problem, as Murphy would be 11 years old once the conflict broke out. He was also the second best general for the longest behind Patton, so he was exactly an obscure pick. Soyuz Murphy, which is played as Russia, turns technically at 10 and 11 Bulgarian. Later will be a focus called Soyuz Murphy, in which the animation studio with many artists across the world, and one of the countries to mention in the focus is Japan. So, try it! Run from it! Soviet anime are nonetheless! Hasbro significant portrait. The radio user, very to the form, once told to the actual Habsburg family about Kaiserreich and China a prayer of the portrait of the bicycle by Paul Habsburg. As a fun fact, Otto Habsburg died at 2011, while the version of Darkest Hour already exists. Ever pleased his mom. In the aforementioned White Virginia monarchy path, it was possible for his brother, Sigismund, to go for Macbeth and kill the king during a play with a bomb. He would then betray the House father and attempt to align with Russia. Mediterranean bloc. As Carlos Spain, she can proclaim an alliance with Portugal, national France, Italy, and Croatia. Also, it was possible to restore the host structure if the British throne used the option to set up a military government at Jules IV of agreement of the throne of Stuart as Carlos Spain. Yasuhito. In the Darkest Hour version, Hirohito said to face an assassination attempt if Japan went down to the restorationist road. If he died, Prince Chichibu would become regent. He could continue to serve in his capacity or instead proclaim himself as new emperor. For his death in either choice, Akihito would ascend to the throne. Border Stormman. You may know that an excuse to die at the Tower of Savvun, but did you know that the news of his death would lead to the death of another? Boris Stormman was for some reason still alive in 1936 and he would die shortly after Kerensky. He chose as the title of the game for his Iron Fisted brute trait. His prompt death was quite a troll. Superga disaster. He referred to an event in which, regardless of their private fortunes, every single totalist Italian politician would die in a plane crash in 1949. Post-Wrangler. Pearce become maybe one of the most iconic characters of Kaiserreich today. Put the prior national popular option for Russia ever since the Alta Russia. As a matter of fact, was Piotr Wrangel. In Wrangel base, the nickname was the modern military dictator option. Wrangel was exceptionally dynamic and the studied as boss, restored the Romans, or proclaimed himself as Tsar. Balkanized France. I say France separate Brittany from France. One could have the option to completely dismantle France as factorly. Normandy and Occitania could be broken off as well, or obliterated France in the same way as you can win Germany if you play either win national or syndicalist France if you won the war towards Germany. Naval tech divergence. Play of White Term, the naval tech theory of Kaiserreich was completely different. To simulate the prominence of terminal warfare, the entire navy aspect of the map was revamped. He dropped after a few years and having to maintain his change every routine was seen as not working. Here is kamikazes. In a total war mobilization that would make a standing approach, it was a hood that allowed Iran to conquest its entire population. Now, as big but equally ridiculous was the kamikaze plan that Iran could also deploy in an event of war. Various Transcaucasia. The Belly was the leader on the activity and had an infamous reputation by starting what is known as the Red Terror in Altanium was the totalist option for Georgia. If Armenia and Azerbaijan were conquered, then Transcaucasia could be formed. Bonus point when studying as an interior minister with the APT efficient sociopath trait. Mosley posting. What the subreddit was but as spring chicken was the earliest and most enduring means was simply posting a ton about Oswald Mosley. Surely had to be there to see it. It was an enduring topic that encapsulated the sub. Hearts of Iron 2 version. The Hearts of Iron 2 version was where after Russia evolved into Kaiserreich. This version is quite a time capsule. The first version available for download is the 1.3, released in 2011, and although it has some updated graphics, it maintains its charm. 16 white beaters. In the Darkest Hour version, the American Union States used to have the 8th militia named the 69 Wife Beaters. Before it was completely removed, it was briefly renamed to the 69 Wife Lovers. The Crown Atomy, regarded as one of the best Kaiserreich AARs ever, if not the best, the Crown Atomy takes a mundane topic, a Canada-Germany Cold War, and actually does something with it. Lasting from 2015 to 2018, the AAR had quality storytelling, a varied collection of custom content, and a stunning graphic to boot. I highly recommend to check it out. Ruling Russian royalty. Much in the same way that Germany could form its own royal family upon conquering foes, so too could the Romanovs. This is a mere sample size of what they could do. Theoretically, the only nation they can impose a monarch over is Germany and Prussia. Balkanized China. Before what the blunt the chances out there in the darkest hour version, it was possible to split out China way more than we can do today. Mainlands could be turned into a whole republic, Yunnan could be released into an independent Greater Yunnan with the territories of Sichuan, and the entire countries of the Yellow River could be broken into a one-share republic with Wang Jingwei as its leader. Also become flag. Many years ago, Seiko had a very different flag. Instead of the tricolor with the horn and sword, Seiko used to have a red flag with a white circle, which had the symbol of the hand of gods used by Slavic pagans. See the old flag design, it's not surprising why it was changed, and I hope that YouTube don't destroy my channel by showing his awkward symbol. Tian Empire. Back in old China, the cultists had a rather specific path that could be led to a proclamation of a new empire. They first had to grant a specific treatment to auspicious refugees. Once all that China was reunited under their banner, they then had the option to proclaim a Tian Empire. When the emperor came of age, he would reign with Shou and Lai as premier. Reagan's regeneration. So you may note that there was once a event about Ronald Reagan's death, but did you know that it was permanent? Come 1947 and he showed up in the Pacific State Ministries as if nothing happened. Digimon 98. Digimon 98 was a series of large cases who had posted a ton of posts, particularly questions. How many were? At least Digimon 98 has posted hundreds if not thousands of or make asking questions in the past of the years, only stopping a years ago. Most of his questions were about very specific things, and as a fun fact, the creator of his Iceberg, Ditlevsen, wanted to answer some of his questions. Sternberg's son. If the scene against Sternberg ruling Mongolia reached a fever pitch, then the mad battle would go down in a blaze of glory. Afterwards, it was possible for either his wife or his young son to take place as figurehead. Now, at the end of his book, apparently Sternberg reproduced via osmosis, because the title against his cantator is literally just a photo of Sternberg as a kid. Shadow of Kaiserreich. Some years ago, a madlab made a millennium down as Kaiserreich mod called the Shadow of Kaiserreich. I can attest to the quality of the mod, but it had Arnold Schwarzenegger as leader of the Pacific State, so takes wrote the epic as I say. Halloween updates. When the mod was first posted to Hearts of Final 4, there will be another Halloween updates. The changes were only reported to make the leader look like horror character, but it was a nice touch to celebrate the season. Chancellor von Richthofen. The Red Baron himself was once an option of Chancellor of the German Empire. You had to play all the way to 1952 and like the Aldeutsche Verband, and he beat the Mother Pig, a neat piece of lore, even if it was rotten in the late game. Governor's Rhineland. In case Germany lost a war towards any national population above Rhineland, its leader was none other than Joseph Goebbels, and his whole cabinet was filled with people who were Nazi in North Rhineland as well, with Albert Speer notably as head of government. Heather Mitchell. In the Darkest Hour version, one of the generals that Canada used to head was was Sir Anthony Cecil Howard May Mitchell, a fiction character from the British television series set during World War I called Blackadder. Fritz Kuhn, before for long was shifted to National Populist, and before Prairie there was Fritz Kuhn, the leader of the German-American bond in Northern Line. He could edit the game power via vote or by coup, but it was exceptionally rare to ever see the AI do his rule. As his power was removed in the Dark Souls version and never made it into Hearts of Fire 4, his power is quite a relic. All Wiki, created way back in 2007, the Perfect Kaiserreich Wiki is a site to home. It's a treasure of ancient lore. Though the primary website is quite dilapidated and rather tricky to navigate. If you want to check, I recommend viewing it via the Wayback Machine. It's quite surreal to see it all. German Union. In a rather specific circumstance that Germany and Union were at war and Germany conquered it, they could strike Ukraine the entirety of Union situation as imperial territory with no penalty incurred. UK. The American Union State had Francis Sijoke as minister. That don't make much sense because at the time where the Second American Civil War happens, Jockey was only 90 years old. Syndicalist Middle Africa. If government do all the construction projects and successfully peace of the natives, the native could cop him and establish a syndicalist state in Middle Africa. His syndicalist supposed could either maintain its side or express interest between Namibia, ever colony which is in the Gulf of Guinea plus the Central African Republic, and East Africa with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zambia and Malawi. German Union. Before the German state and the German Socialist Republic, there was the German Union. It came in socially, nationally, or democratic flavor, with surprising amount of content for each route. Highlights include the social liberal Erwin Rommel and the national populist leader with Ernest Ross sexuality. Juan Xin's part of divergence. For the Logan State, the starting leader of the Republic of China was Juan Xin. He is significant because Juan Iceberg died on October 31 of 1916, a whole human before Kaiserreich supports part of divergence. Now, I am not the one to buy into the whole China Reich allegation, but the more actual point divergence until 2018 by a Chinese guy not die is actually hilarious. Salifian Caliphate. You may know now, but Turkestan was once able to proclaim a caliphate, but it was also able to convince the Hashemite to do so. If they accept the Salifian Caliphate will be proclaimed, just changing the Ottomans. Mount Switcheroo. In the very early version of the mod, Mao Zedong was not there, but in Taiwan. If only it can happen if Taiwan is liberated as a puppet of any syndicalist nation. Himre Fried Chicken merged, back to the point where Himre becomes a chicken farmer. In that time, the Baltic Fried Chicken merchandise was briefly a thing. No, I am serious. Original Kaiserreich website. This may come as a surprise, but Kaiserreich said to have its own proper website. My forum ranging from mod development to AI were hosted here, and it looked to be pretty tight-knit. Unfortunately, they said closed door who it was to host it, with the community dispersing to either Discord already as a result. Harold Tordo Characters. Harold Tordo is a writing famous known for his books about alternative history that made him known by many as the father of alternative history with other authors like Felix K. Dick. In Kaiserreich, particularly in its early version, two of his characters could be found in the mod. These characters are Flora Blackford, a former minister of the Communist City, and a character from the Sword of Victory series, and Liu Han, a former minister of the Fentian Clique, and a character from the World War series. Venezuela for Breakwall. In older Kaiserreich, Latin America was said to have a decent amount of content going into the 50s and 60s. If for some reason you decide to play Venezuela all the way to 1961, you'll be tilted into an lecture basically you all directly. Lawrence in Arabia. Before he was a Canadian spy and before he was a syndicalist war hero, D.E. Lawrence was native living in Hashemite Arabia as its Minister of Intelligence. Ottoman Sicily. He probably the most circumstantial releasable nation ever. To get his releasable, you need to do firstly, Italy had to be united under the Federation and not be aligned with the Ottomans. For their part, the Ottomans had to withdraw their war and be a war with Italy. If the Ottomans somehow land in Sicily, then a peace deal would be triggered. Afterward, the Ottomans could either occupy the island or create a puppet in either monarchy or republic favors. Prussian revolt. If Prussia was puppeted by France and the second attack the celebration hall, then a counter-revolution would take place. If France was too worried to intervene, then a new Prussian government would be chosen. Prussia would then attempt to align itself with a foreign faction before launching a war to reunite Germany. His, as you may guess, would be incredibly difficult to pull off as merely Prussia against the entire Third International. If successful as a monarchy, he would be actually the fastest way to get Wilhelm IV as Kaiser. Longest went to Roosevelt. Before he was the vice president of any terrorist candidate, Quentin Roosevelt was, according to the old Kaiserreich lore, a supporter of Wilhelm. No, you may think that he's merely that, a lore tip that has no bearing on gameplay, until you check the tech companies for the American Union State and see that Quentin Roosevelt was an option for plain research. Oddly enough, he only be available from 1943 onward, so he wouldn't be noticeable as such right away. Castor Cuba. In a surprisingly comprehensive adventure for Cuba in the 1950s, it was once possible to get a Santa Brother duel in charge of Cuba. If not socially dictatorial, the people would demand reform in 1953. There would then be an insanity massacre that led to an attempted revolution. An attempted rape would lead to the government's victory. A show trial of Fidel Castro would ensue, potentially lead to his execution. The remaining Cuban revolutionaries will fare apart, taking years to reconsolidate. There will be a Bay of Peace incident, with multiple events potentially lead to Havana capture. The Castro's brother, assuming Fidel was executed, will then assume leadership of the country. See what I mean when I say that Latin America is said to have some wildly expensive content so late in the game? Brazilian King of Hungary. This may shock you, but once upon a time, independent Hungary had content. You could choose to be a republic or a monarchy, and the latter option had a staggeringly outcome. One option was Don Luis Gustavo, a German Brazilian priest and grandson of Don Pedro II. MacArthur avoided the Second American Civil War. There is a superbly bruised book in the Dark South version of the mod, where MacArthur can straight up avoid the Civil War. For make the book happens, first, you must invite the military to lead the country. Choose the His and Still a Democracy option, and then pass the Act option. Eventually, you'll get an event about protests. Leave the ban and you'll move one state to authoritarian, turning the nation into a paternal autocracy. Thus avoiding the 1936 presidential election event, which only fails if you would choose to democracy, thus becoming a democracy. It is the result of an unintended oversight, but seeing MacArthur, Blunt, Moseley, Crowley, and Eisenhower in the same cabinet is quite surreal. Red Glory. If you try to search Kaiserreich Red Glory, you will stumble upon his tweet from 2013, linking to you to a website that no longer exists. The website is the aforementioned original Kaiserreich website, and the subject of the post was fascinating indeed. A Kaiserreich FPS? Set in a steampunk 1980s where the German Empire and the combined syndicate are located in a Cold War? It all seemed too good to be true, and well, it is. He was the first ever Kaiserreich April Fools. If you know of Red Glory, then you already know that. What you may not know was that even I was merely a reporter from one red thumb way back in 2008. Still, I am 100% down for his idea being a tangible project one day. Crusoe English Dual Monarchy. Some of you may recall that Wilhelm III's son, Louis Ferdinand could impose over a defeated Russia as even the 7. Although there are still likely to award that a defeated Britain may have just either imposed. There is a route that still exists to his day after all. However, if you decide to balkanize Britain, then the king possessor of England would be Richard Edwards, but Louis Ferdinand? Yes, if you conquer both Britain and Russia as Germany, Louis Ferdinand could reign as king and say simultaneously West Coast Federation. In exactly one of the mod, we buy in the third beta version, the Pacific State was known as the West Coast Federation. It was here that a cool power was planned, and a national popular cooperative dictatorship led the West Coast elite. His rule was clear, but the initial military sector began in the more over a decade. Manchukuo, the other rendition of China in Kaiserreich, whereby in its early original beta, was surprisingly similar. The AOG, Taik Yunnan, Delegation City, King, they were altered, but two genuine different exist. One is the Fentia was a threat of Manchukuo with Puji in charge. Stranger still, the king was led by Puji's father. I heard of familiar drama, but that takes the cake. Here's a word crack. One of the other Kaiserreich errors that you can still see is centered over Paradox Plaza. Most ancient errors no longer have valuable images. Also, Warcraft impressed further stirred by being a total conversion error, and visualizing the Kaiserreich universe in the 21st century. It is relatively short as far as ergo, but it is a well-inspired set of concepts alone and well looked through. Has a far true version. It said that in the final week of the original Kaiserreich website, a full feed appeared to announce his project. One that was very ambitious but laborious. About something that even the developer themselves has abandoned. For the Kaiserreich to Hearts of Iron 3. Hearts of Iron 3 was a flawed release, unsuitable for extensive modifications, but despite his impossible. During the development of his port to Hearts of Iron 3, progress was made, albeit modest, with the map itself nearly terraformed. Unfortunately, the announcement of Hearts of Iron 4, which the developer hoped to mod, led the cancellation of the Hearts of Iron 3 port, leaving it as an ambitious project that never materialized. Kaiser Depth Invasion. If you were to open up the console commands of either the Hearts of Iron 2 or Darkest Souls version and type in Alien Attack for this ID number and support will be Alien Attack 722, a rather horrifying fate awaits you. Your game will be invaded by the Depth Team. The lore was incomprehensible, and yet the project stagnated unkillable. It made for a rather terrifying challenge, a pro-dimension mod so to speak. The Ballad of Mullah Hashim. At his point, Jorel disseminated related to Kaiserreich, from the hilarious to the most unknown. But I want to counter there is so obscure that I have seen no one saw anywhere to speak of it. Even the creator of his paper, which had many gems his topic than me, didn't know about his rabbit hole until recently. If you were to play either the Hearts of Iron 2 or the Darkest Soul or version a liberal Sarawak on the especially an authoritarian democratic government, you will be greeted by his minister list. The heads of state and the head of government are a truly bizarre case. Both men are Indians who never set a foot in Sarawak. Mullah Bakar was a musician who died in 1896, while Hashim Madami was a Sufi teacher who died in 1907. As you can surmise, both adjustments break the timeline. Hashim, who was deputized during the Indian Rebellion of 1857, will be very likely be a centennial by Game Start. Now, if just a figure stay in older version of the mod as a strange relic, then that be that. And indeed, Mullah never made it to Hearts of Iron 4. Hashim, on the other hand, is another story. Sarawak didn't exist in the earliest version of the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, but when it was added, so too was the entire Sarawak military from the Darkest South version. Save for the head of state. Sarawak is not major, so its final details were left to the wayside for a long time. How long? Well, Hashim stayed in the mod file this until the 0.21 one advisor reward in 2022. In simple words, until little as 4 years ago, an individual that died a decade before for the mod's point of divergence was in the game.